I never thought my life would turn into one of those stories, the kind you read on Reddit late at night and think, no way that actually happened. But here I am writing mine. Let me start by saying I'm not perfect. I've made my fair share of mistakes. But if there's one thing I've always held sacred, it's loyalty. Loyalty to the people I love. Especially my mom, who raised me pretty much on her own until I was 10. My dad walked out on us when I was little. I barely remember him, just the sound of the door closing and my mom sitting on the floor, silent. She worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. We didn't have much, but we had each other. I looked up to her like a superhero. Things changed when she met Frank, my future stepdad. He was fine, I guess. One of those guys who always had to be right. He came with a son from a previous marriage, Sean, who was a year younger than me. From the second we met, I knew we were different. Where I was quiet and kind of a homebody, Sean was loud, always joking, always needing attention. He was the golden boy to Frank, and somehow that dynamic bled into the whole family. My mom, who hated conflict like it was a disease, would always say, "Just let it go, honey." Anytime Sean pushed my buttons. Still, I tried. I really did. I wanted the family thing to work. We were teenagers thrown into the same house, and yeah, there were fights, dumb ones over who got the front seat, or who used up the hot water, but nothing I couldn't handle. Fast forward a few years, and I met Karen. God, Karen. She was the first person who made me feel like I mattered. Like I wasn't just a background noise to someone else's drama. She was funny, sharp, a little anxious sometimes, but who isn't these days? We met at a mutual friend's birthday, bonded over a shared hatred of karaoke, and just clicked. She was my best friend before anything else. We built our relationship slow, 2 years of getting to know each other, learning how to communicate, pushing through fights without falling apart. When I proposed, I swear I've never seen someone smile so wide. My mom was thrilled. Frank offered a stiff handshake. Sean? He smirked and said something like, "Didn't think you had it in you." I laughed it off, but Karen looked uncomfortable. It was one of those moments that should have felt like nothing, but looking back, it sticks out like a bad tooth. From the moment we got engaged, Sean started hanging around more. At first, it was harmless. He'd swing by while Karen and I were having dinner with my mom. Sometimes he'd accidentally show up at places where we were out with friends. I chalked it up to coincidence, maybe boredom. Karen told me once, "Your stepbrother kind of creeps me out." I laughed. I shouldn't have. "Creeps you out how?" "I don't know," she said. "He just stares sometimes. And the stuff he jokes about? It's weird." Sean had this way of making everything into a joke. Like he could say something wildly inappropriate, then wave it off with, "Relax, I'm kidding." I remember one night at a small get-together at my mom's house, Sean said, "If this guy screws up the wedding, you know you've got options." Then he winked at Karen. Everyone laughed. Even Karen gave a polite smile. I brushed it off. He was just being Sean. Always pushing boundaries. But the boundary pushing didn't stop. He'd text Karen random memes. Harmless, right? Then it turned into flirty gifs. Once, she showed me one with the caption, "Bet you wish I was your fiancé instead." I told her to block him, but she didn't want to make waves. "It'll just make it worse," she said. "Let's just ignore it. He's immature." I tried talking to my mom about it. I told her Sean was making Karen uncomfortable, that he needed to back off. But she looked at me like I was the problem. "Honey, he's just joking. He's had a rough time lately. Try to be patient." Patient. That's what she always said. The wedding planning moved forward. Karen and I were looking at apartments. Things should have felt like a dream, but something was off. Karen seemed more tense. Quieter. Always tired. I thought it was just wedding stress. I didn't know how wrong I was. One night, while Karen was showering at my place, I noticed her phone light up with a message. I wasn't snooping, it just lit up on the table next to me. It was from Sean. "Miss you. Can't stop thinking about the other night." My heart stopped. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. My brain tried to logic its way out of it. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe he meant someone else. But my gut knew something was wrong. I didn't say anything that night. I couldn't. I felt paralyzed. So I stayed quiet, but I started watching. Listening. Noticing the way Karen would flinch when I brought up Sean. The way her eyes darted away whenever his name came up. The plant of suspicion had been planted, and it was growing faster than I could keep up with. I told myself I'd talk to her soon. That I'd get the truth. But part of me already knew the truth. I just didn't want to believe it. And that's how it started. With a smile too long, a joke too far, and a message I wish I'd never seen. The signs were there, and I couldn't ignore them anymore, but I froze. I wish I could tell you I confronted Karen that night, laid it all on the table like a grown adult. But I didn't. Instead, I spiraled. Every laugh between them, every glance, every time Karen got weird when Sean's name came up, it all started to pile up in my head like bricks on my chest. And I carried it quietly because, what if I was wrong? What if I accused her and it destroyed everything for no reason? But deep down, I knew I wasn't wrong. So I tested the waters. "Hey, did Sean text you today?" I asked her casually one evening while we were cooking dinner. Karen didn't even look up. "Nope." "Why?" I stared at her back, feeling my chest burn. She'd lied so easily. That's when the fear turned into something colder, doubt. And that doubt started gnawing at everything good we'd built. A week later, we had dinner at my mom's house. Just the four of us, me, Karen, Frank, and Sean. My mom was working late. Karen tried to beg off, but I insisted. I needed to see how they acted around each other. And I wasn't disappointed. Sean was in full charm mode, doing his usual "I'm the funny one" routine. Laughing a little too loud at Karen's jokes. Touching her arm, accidentally, as he passed by with the salad bowl. Karen kept forcing smiles, barely eating, barely looking at me. At one point, Sean said, "Man, if I had someone like Karen, I'd never screw it up." The table went quiet. Frank cleared his throat. I looked at Karen. She just stared down at her plate. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. When we got back to my apartment, I confronted her. No more tiptoeing. "Are you sleeping with Sean?" The silence that followed hit harder than any answer she could have given. She didn't say. No. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, mouth slightly open, like her brain had locked up. That silence broke me. Finally, she whispered, "It was just once. I didn't mean for it to happen." My knees nearly gave out. I felt like the ground had been pulled from beneath me. Every memory, every plan we made, every late-night talk, every whispered "I love you," tainted. Corrupted. I backed away from her like she was radioactive. "What do you mean once? When?" I snapped. She started crying. "It was the night after your uncle's birthday. You were sick. He came by to drop something off and... I don't know. I was drunk. He said things. Made me feel like I wasn't good enough for you. Like you were too busy for me. I didn't plan it. You cheated on me with my stepbrother, Karen." I shouted, my voice shaking. "And now you're making excuses?" She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. But I couldn't comfort her. I couldn't even look at her. All I could see was Sean's smug grin. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor in the hallway while Karen cried in the bedroom. By morning, I told her to leave. I didn't tell anyone right away. I needed space. Time to process. I shut off my phone for 2 days, holed up in my apartment like a ghost. When I finally turned it back on, I had 32 missed calls and more than 100 texts. From my mom, from Karen, even from Sean. But the real punch came a few days later. I went to my mom's house to talk. I needed her to hear it from me. She hugged me at the door, her face full of concern. "I've been so worried, honey. What's going on?" I told her everything. Every ugly detail. I expected her to be shocked, horrified, furious at Sean. Instead, she sighed. "Sweetheart. I know it's hard, but these things happen. People make mistakes." My jaw dropped. "Mistakes? He seduced my fiancée. Your future daughter-in-law." She winced at the word, seduced, like I was exaggerating. Karen is vulnerable, and Sean's had a rough time lately. He hasn't had anyone in years. Maybe they connected. I just stared at her, stunned. Are you saying I should forgive them? Not forgive, just be understanding. He's your brother. No. He's not. And don't you dare expect me to pretend like this is normal. But the worst wasn't even that. The worst was what she said next. There's something else, and I need to tell you before you hear it from someone else. I held my breath. Karen's pregnant. The room spun. I swear I couldn't feel my legs. What? Are you sure it's his? My mom hesitated. She doesn't know. But she thinks it might be. That was it. That was the moment my heart finally gave out. Not literally, but emotionally, something just snapped inside of me. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked out the door without another word. Later that night, Sean texted me. I didn't plan it, man. I swear. But Karen and we just have a connection. I think she was never really happy with you. I didn't want to hurt you. I threw my phone across the room. It cracked against the wall. What kind of person says that? The next day, I packed my things and left town. I didn't even tell my mom. I just left. And the texts didn't stop. My family kept reaching out, asking me to talk, asking me to understand. They wanted me to be the bigger person. But I was done being the bigger person. I was done being betrayed, dismissed, and expected to swallow it all to keep the family peace. It ended up in this rundown motel off a forgotten highway about 3 hours north. Peeling wallpaper, stained carpet, a flickering bathroom light. It was perfect, miserable enough to match what I was feeling inside. I didn't sleep. Not even with the TV on full volume, trying to drown out the replay of her face when she said it was just once, or the look in Sean's eyes when he texted me like I was supposed to understand. Like I was just collateral damage in their tragic little love story. The word pregnant just echoed in my head. I didn't even know how to be mad anymore. I was beyond that. My emotions were like broken glass, sharp, scattered, and impossible to hold on to without bleeding. I kept asking myself the same question over and over, what the hell do I do now? You'd think being alone with your thoughts for days would bring you some kind of clarity, right? It didn't. I thought maybe if I put enough miles between me and the wreckage, it'd start to feel like it wasn't real. But no matter how far I went, I couldn't outrun that moment, standing in my childhood kitchen, hearing my mother say those words like it was just some minor inconvenience. Karen's pregnant. It played on repeat like a twisted lullaby I never asked for. I started drinking more than I should have. Cheap whiskey from a gas station and a 6-pack of regret every night. Not to numb the pain, I wanted to feel something. I just didn't want to feel this. Sometimes I imagined what would have happened if I hadn't asked that question that night. If I just let it slide. If I never found out. Would we still be planning the wedding? Would I still be holding her hand every night thinking we were solid? Or worse, would I be raising Sean's baby, thinking it was mine? The idea made my stomach twist. Day 4, I wandered into this 24-hour diner at 3 a.m., the kind with sticky booths and coffee that tastes like melted cardboard. I looked like hell. Same clothes. Unshaven. Dead eyes. The waitress gave me a look like she'd seen this before. Maybe she had. She didn't ask questions, just poured me a cup and slid over a plate of fries I didn't order. I must have looked hungry. I didn't eat them, though. At the booth across from me was this old man, gray beard, wearing a flannel and a busted-up cowboy hat. He kept glancing at me, and I kept trying not to notice. But eventually he said, "She leave you or betray you?" I blinked. "Excuse me?" He nodded like he already knew. "You got the look of a man who's trying to figure out whether he should forgive someone or disappear for good." I didn't answer. But he kept going. "I've been there. Left my whole damn life behind once. Started over with nothing. People think running fixes things. Sometimes it just gives you enough space to see it clearer." He didn't wait for a reply. Just tipped his mug at me and left a 10 on the table. I sat there in silence, staring at those cold fries like they held answers. And for the first time since everything blew up, I asked myself the question I'd been avoiding. Could I ever forgive them? And worse, If I could, did that mean I was weak? I didn't know. I still don't. That same morning, I finally turned my phone back on. Battery nearly dead. Messages came flooding in. Karen, please talk to me. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I don't even know if it's his. Please. My mom. Sean's going to step up. He wants to do the right thing. But we still need you. Your family. Sean. If it's mine, I'll take care of her. But I still hope you can be part of the kid's life. You're my brother, man. Brother? I never felt more like an orphan in my entire life. I didn't respond. I turned off the phone again, this time for good. But that night, something cracked open inside me. Maybe it was the conversation with the old man. Maybe it was the coffee. I just ran out of energy to be angry all the time. I realized something important. I didn't owe anyone forgiveness. But I did owe myself peace. And staying in that motel, drunk and bitter, hoping they'd hurt as much as I did, that wasn't peace. That was just more pain. So I made a decision. Kind of. Not a full one, not yet. But I packed up my bag, checked out of the motel, and started driving again. Not back home. Not to Karen. Not to my mom's house where all the memories lived. Just somewhere new. I didn't know what I was chasing, or if I'd ever find it. But I knew what I was leaving behind, a life built on lies. A family that chose convenience over truth. And a woman who called what she did a mistake instead of what it really was, a choice. That drive was long. Quiet. But the silence didn't suffocate me the way it had before. Maybe I was finally starting to breathe again, feeling a sense of release. That's when the truth of it struck me. I didn't forgive them. I forgave myself. I wish I could say everything made sense when I left. That the road led me somewhere peaceful and perfect, some movie ending where I find a cozy cabin, meet someone new, and live happily ever after. But that's not how real life works. Real healing is slow. It's messy. It comes in waves, sometimes gentle, and sometimes crashing. I ended up in a small coastal town about 8 hours away from everything I used to know. Rented a one-bedroom apartment above a hardware store. It smelled like sawdust and sea air, oddly comforting. The landlord didn't ask too many questions. I liked that. For a while, I worked odd jobs, washing dishes, helping a guy fix up rental properties, stacking shelves in a late-night grocery. Kept to myself. Slept a lot. Talked very little. It felt quiet. Not peaceful exactly, but at least quiet enough to let my brain start untangling the knot in my chest. I started journaling, never thought I'd be the type. But every night I wrote something down. Anything. Mostly anger at first. Pages and pages of why? And how could they? Sometimes I wrote letters to Karen I never intended to send. Sometimes I wrote to my past self, the guy who thought his life was solid and his future was set. I told him he deserved better. About 2 months after I left, I got a voicemail from my mom. Her voice cracked like it hadn't in years. I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for how I handled it. I should have protected you. I should have stood up for you. I miss you, baby. I really do. I played that message exactly once. Then deleted it. I wasn't ready. Still, I thought about it, about her. About how I used to feel like she was my safe place growing up. And how somewhere along the way, she traded that role to be Sean's stepmom instead of my mother. And maybe that was part of what hurt the most. A few weeks later, a mutual friend from back home texted me. Said Karen had the baby. A girl. DNA test confirmed what I already knew deep down. The baby was Sean's. He named her Lena. Karen was staying at my mom's now. Sean visits but doesn't live there, apparently. Working through things. Which is code for still getting away with everything. They sent me pictures. Well, my mom did. I didn't open them. I deleted that message too. Because it was never about the baby. That child didn't ask to be born into that mess. She's innocent. But every time I looked at a photo or read a message, it ripped open the stitches I was trying to sew. So I stopped looking. One night, I walked down to the beach, stars out, waves whispering, whole world asleep. I sat on a piece of driftwood and said it out loud for the first time. She's gone. And it's okay. Karen. Sean. My old life. My mom, at least the version of her I used to count on. They were all gone. And while I wouldn't say I was okay because of what happened, I was starting to feel okay despite it. That's when I realized something that genuinely surprised me. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I didn't want revenge. I didn't wish them pain or failure. I just wanted distance. Space. Freedom. Me. They took a lot from me. Years. Trust. A future I was building with my bare hands. But I still had something they couldn't touch, the ability to choose what happens next. Weeks after that night on the beach, I called my mom. First time since everything. I don't know what I expected, but when she answered and heard my voice, she just started crying. Not talking. Just tears. And instead of getting mad or hanging up, I listened. She apologized again. Told me she still sees my jacket hanging in the hallway and sometimes thinks I'm about to walk in. Said she held Lena once and thought of what might have been if life had gone differently. I told her I was safe. That I wasn't coming home, not anytime soon. But that I didn't hate her. I didn't hate Karen. Or even Sean. I just needed to move on. And moving on meant doing it without them. She understood. We said goodbye. There wasn't a big moment. No fiery speech or last-minute confrontation. Sometimes closure doesn't come with a door slamming or a final argument. Sometimes it just comes quietly, in the form of an exhale you didn't know you'd been holding. So yeah, my stepbrother got my fiancée pregnant. And yeah, my family still wanted me to forgive him. But I didn't. I forgave myself. For not seeing it sooner. For trusting too much. For breaking down. For walking away. And somewhere along the line, that ended up being enough. It's been a little over a year now. The seasons have rolled over me like soft waves. I barely noticed the shift at first, from winter's cold bitterness to spring's tentative hope. But the changes came, quietly and consistently, like healing always does. Somewhere along the way, I stopped counting days since everything happened. I stopped measuring time by distance from betrayal. And I started living again. I started to wake up early these days. Not because I have to, but because I like the silence of the morning. The way the sky blushes before the sun stretches over the horizon. There's a small patch of land behind my place now. I started planting vegetables. Tomatoes. Peppers. Herbs I don't even know how to use properly yet. I learned to be still. And in that stillness, I found something I never expected: peace. Not because the world made it right. Not because they said sorry enough times. But because I made the choice to stop carrying it. People ask if I ever think about them, my stepbrother, Karen, my mom. I do. But not with anger. Sean is still. Sean. Last I heard, he's back with Karen, trying to co-parent. Or trying to pretend everything is normal, like he always has. Karen hasn't reached out in months. I think she knows it's better that way. I don't hate her anymore. I don't wish her harm. I hope she finds a version of herself that doesn't need validation from broken people. As for my mom, we talk sometimes. It's not the same. But I can tell she's trying. And maybe that's enough to change how I see things. I have no enemies, there's a quote I read once. I didn't understand it back then. But now, a true warrior needs no sword. Because he has no enemies. For a while, I thought Sean was my enemy. Then Karen. Then even my own mother. But I've realized none of them were. They were just people. Flawed, scared, selfish. Like I've been. Like we all are at some point. Holding on to that hate only made me bleed. So I let it go. Not for them. For me. Because forgiveness isn't about them deserving it, it's about me deserving peace. And I finally do.